like the sky. You just need to fly high. It will be cold for a while, but at the end of time I will be on your side. Whoa, please don't go too far. Whoa, please don't go too far. If you want to travel miles, pack your dreams and thrive outside. I will be here for advice while you get into the wild. Whoa, please don't go too far. Whoa, please don't go too far. If you want to leave this world and just leave my heart alone in the dark, I remember we used to smile, but please don't go too far.
Oh, no, he was talking to the attorney. Okay, I will now call the regular Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead us in saluting our flag. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect time always.
We will now move on with regular business, starting with communication. At this time, I will ask Director Morris if there is any communication or announcements for this evening's meeting.
Excuse me, Chair. Excuse me. Can we do a roll call?
I am so sorry, yes. It's even right in front of me.
Chair Rudine,
Here.
Vice Chair Lightfoot, Commissioner Klein, Commissioner Courtney,
Here.
Commissioner Vargas,
Here.
Commissioner Banta,
Here.
Commissioner Beaumont.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, since I've already messed up once, it can only get better from here. Okay, so now I will ask Director Morris if there's any communication or announcements for this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Chair Rudine. There is one communication associated with item 7A, and that is it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to approval of this evening's agenda. Do I have a motion and then a second to approve the agenda?
So move. Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fortney and a second by Commissioner Vargas. Nancy, can you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Fortney,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas,
Yes.
Commissioner Banta, Commissioner Beaumont.
Yes.
Chair Rudine,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, moving on to business from the floor. This portion of the agenda is available for the public to address the Planning Commission on any issue that is not on the agenda. There will be a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. I welcome anyone who wishes to address the Commission regarding a topic or issue that is not on the agenda this evening to please approach the podium. We have no public comment speakers, so I will close that. Moving on to consent calendar. We have one item on consent, which is the minutes from May 21st, 24, that meeting. Does anyone from the Commission or public wish to pull the consent item for discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Vargas, a second from Commissioner Beaumont. Nancy, can you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Fortney,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas,
Yes.
Commissioner Banta, Commissioner Beaumont,
Yes.
Chair Rudine.
Yes. All right. And then moving on to public hearing. This is to receive a presentation on Eubanks and Cotting Lane amendments. We will first hear a presentation by staff, followed by commissioner questions. Then we will open it for public comment. After public comment, we'll bring it back to the commission for comments. May we please have the staff presentation?
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The item before you tonight is the Eubanks and Cotting Lane amendments. And this is a request to sum up a change to the general plan land use map designations for 12 properties from commercial office to industrial park, and then a change to the zoning map to change districts for those same 12 parcels from CO to IP. On the right of your screen, you'll see the interchange business park and the 12 sites under consideration for tonight's public hearing. Setting the stage on how we got to this point, it started in 1977 when the initial policy plan was approved for this area as the Crocker Land Company Phase 2. That particular policy plan was later changed to the Interchange Business Park Policy Plan. Between 1984 and 1992, most of the buildings on the subject sites were built. Another notable moment occurred in 2015 when the city adopted a general plan update. That was a comprehensive update to our general plan that changed also as part of their action land use designations for these sites from industrial park to commercial office. That was part of a movement and attempt to identify more commercial office properties for future development of those businesses that could be close to residential uses. Between 2017 and 2019, the remaining properties of subject tonight on Crocker Drive were approved and built. A subsequent action to the 2015 general plan update was in 2022 when the city adopted a comprehensive update to the land use and development code to be consistent with that newly adopted general plan. What that did was it removed the policy plans, including the interchange business park, and codified them underneath a new chapter called the employment zoning districts. But it also changed the subject properties zoning from industrial park to commercial office. And that's where all of this begins with the general plan initiation request. So when that zoning changed, it also changed what allowable uses could be within these existing industrial buildings. And what we found out through 3 property owners on Eubanks Drive and Cotting Lane was that new tenant spaces that needed to be occupied could not be occupied by industrial uses. And that's where it came in, is that these buildings were designed for industrial uses and these property owners were unable to lease them to industrial uses because they could not get a business license approved. And so the property owners looked into retrofitting the buildings and they found that it wasn't feasible for commercial offices. And so that's where they came with a request to change it back to industrial. That initial request was brought to City Council back in February of this year, where City Council voted unanimous to initiate that general plan amendment request. But they also directed staff to take a look at some other sites too. And we did look at other areas to be included. We found 4 additional locations that were still designated as commercial office in the general plan and zone for commercial office, and that's over off of Eubanks, Vacaville Parkway, and Crocker Drive. And that's how those properties got added to it, and we coordinated with the property owners to make them aware of what was going on with this initiative. That brings us to our project summary. For tonight's entitlements under consideration involves an environmental assessment, a general plan map amendment, and a zoning map amendment. There are 12 parcels under consideration, totaling a total of 35.96 acres. They're all developed with either light industrial, warehousing, or parking lots. The map on the right shows a little bit closer view of what those properties are. The 2 in red were the original ones, and the ones in blue were the ones that were added after we took another look at it. The general plan map change would change from the existing commercial office in red to industrial park gray. The zoning map, again, would change from commercial office in orange for this map to gray. IP is the new zoning district. The method of review for general plans amendments and zoning map amendments is that those changes need to be consistent with the general plan. So the general plan amendment has to be consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of that general plan. The amendments can't be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare, and they need to be compatible with adjoining land uses. That's the threshold. So our analysis found that the uses that are currently operating within those buildings are consistent with what you'll find for the definition for industrial park designation. There's already existing infrastructure in place to serve those uses. That wouldn't create any compatibility issues if you did change that designation. And then we also found that the uses would comply with the applicable goals and policies of the general plan. Same method of review when we're changing the zoning map. It needs to be consistent with the zoning ordinance in this case. Amendments have to be consistent with goals, objectives, and policies of the zoning ordinance. Can't be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. And then also the changes have to ensure that the properties will comply with applicable development standards and zoning allowable uses for that new zoning district. What we found was it would comply with those goals, objectives, policies. Amendments would remove the potential for compatibility issues with other commercial office uses. And there is existing infrastructure in place to serve all of those uses: sewer, stormwater, and water and storm drain infrastructure is already there, as well as roadways. And the amendments we found would also bring the site closer to compliance, and specifically found that the IP zoning districts are less restrictive. This table is intended to provide that a comparison. You'll see that the industrial park allows for more floor area to be developed within their area. It also allows greater building height less restrictive parking requirements, and the setbacks are somewhat the same as what you'll find in the commercial office zoning district. Parking can be closer. We looked at all the properties, found that they would comply with those industrial park standards, so we're not creating any non-conforming uses or structures. Other areas where we took a look at to make sure that we're not creating other issues is the master water agreement that the city has with Solano Irrigation District. This goes all the way back to 1972 when the city established or executed an agreement with Solano Irrigation District, so that way we can get water for our industrial parks, business parks in the North Village area. A requirement that was put on the city to ensure compliance with getting the water was to make sure that industrial properties were annexed into the SID boundary, paying property taxes to SID. There were some subsequent amendments that occurred in 1995 with a 55-year agreement. This was looking at providing additional water for the northeast sector, Nut Tree Village, Allison Ulatis area, and Lucas Valley. And then some other amendments that occurred in 2002 and 2010 when we realized we weren't growing at a faster pace rate. And then 2018 to address growth that was on the east of Leisure Town. So that's pretty much the snapshot of what that master water agreement has gone through. And so what we found was that there were some properties on Cotting Lane and then Eubanks Court that were not within the SID boundary. And so we contacted SID, put the property owners in contact with them, and they're working on that application process right now to get SID all the application information so they can take that to the Solano Local Agency Formation Commission to get them annexed into that boundary. We're hoping that all that will be settled before we proceed on to the next public hearing for this particular item. There is environmental review associated with discretionary actions and legislative actions like this. The California Environmental Quality Act requires that. We found that this particular activity of changing zoning maps and general plan designations fall under an exemption of general rule, where it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that a project may have a significant effect on the environment. The project is not subject to CEQA. And in this particular instance, what we found was there weren't going to be any physical changes. It wasn't going to induce any growth changes because all the buildings are already there. They're already occupied with industrial uses. The infrastructure's been designed so they don't have to make any changes to that infrastructure. And the sites were approved and developed for industrial type of activities. So under that, we found that there wasn't any subsequent environmental review that was required for this action. These changes do require additional review from other regulatory agencies like Solano County and their Airport Land Use Commission because the proposed property, the subject properties are located within the Nut Tree Airport compatibility zones as well as the Travis Air Force Base. We took this request back to Airport Land Use Commission on May 9th, held a public hearing. They determined that these changes would be consistent with both of those compatibility plans. We also conducted some public outreach for this one. We sent out a new project notice notifying surrounding properties within 600 feet of the subject sites initially on Eubanks Court and Conning Lane about this particular item. Didn't hear anything back. We also sent out notification about the properties when we went to the city council meeting in February. Didn't hear anything about that one. We sent out a public notice for this particular hearing tonight. We did receive one comment letter from a Peter Carusos. That comment was mainly geared at having concerns generally about protecting executive housing. So for the benefit of the record, we wanted to make sure that we were addressing those comments and noting that the proposed changes would not eliminate a buffer zone between industrial and residential uses. Last year, there was a change that was made to general plan policies to help and encourage housing. There was a previous buffer of 200 feet that was in the code and was within the general plan. That buffer was reduced by city council to 50 feet. So there is still a buffer that's in place between industrial activities and residential activities. The other thing that we wanted to make note of is that these changes would not remove any executive housing. These are properties that are already built with industrial buildings. So in conclusion, staff does support the project. It meets the required findings for both of those entitlements. It complies with the general plan, zoning, and state law, and the development standards that would be applicable to the industrial park district. And for that reason, we're recommending for the Planning Commission that the Planning Commission would recommend to the City Council adoption of the resolution and introduction of the ordinance. And that concludes my presentation. Available to answer any questions. The property owners for these subject sites are also here.
Great, thank you for the presentation. Do we have any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Beaumont.
Thanks, Albert. Nice presentation. My only question is, when the zoning changed from IP to CO, were any businesses affected that they had to move out or anything like that in 2022?
None of the businesses were forced to move out. We did run into a situation where the existing tenants, as they were switching over, we were trying to work with the property owners that if there was a new tenant that was coming in, if they were substantially the same as what was currently within there, they would be okay, because we were able to utilize a section within our code that we're not expanding the discrepancy between non-conforming uses. And so as long as they were the similar uses, such as warehousing or manufacturing, to what was already there, they could continue moving to another business to continue to keep that tenant space leased.
Thank you.
Do we have any other commissioner questions? Okay, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Anybody? Any of the commissioners have questions? No?
No, we're comfortable.
Okay. So then with that said, I'll bring it back for commissioner comments and to then later make a motion. Commissioner comments? Commissioner Fortney?
Thorough report, you answered all the questions in the report, and I want to thank the applicant for bringing it to the city and the staff's attention, and you probably saved 4 parcels in the future from having to come back and go through this process, so we appreciate your due diligence in identifying those parcels as well.
Commissioner Beaumont?
Yeah, I just say that these areas started out as industrial parks. They were built as industrial parks. The parking's industrial park parking. It should go from where it started to where it is now, which is just common sense. So it just helps them. It helps the city. It helps the people that are there already. So I don't see where there's any problems whatsoever from my point of view.
Sounds like Commissioner Beaumont's making a motion.
That's what I was going to say. That sounded like a motion.
want me to read it?
I was just going to say before we do that, I agree with what other commissioners are saying. It's already established industrial, so, and it goes along with what the council wants. So with that said, Commissioner Beaumont, would you like to make a motion?
A motion. Adopt a resolution to the City of Vacaville City Council concluding the project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15061B3, and amending the general plan map by changing the general plan land use designations of various properties located in the Interchange Business Park. The following APNs, I'll leave that to others. And number 2, introduce an ordinance of the City of Vacaville City Council amending Title 14 of the Vacaville Municipal Code by changing the zoning districts of various properties in the Interchange Business Park, APNs to follow. Is that sufficient? Yes. Thank you.
And do I have a second?
I'll second. Oh.
Commissioner Vanta. Okay. Nancy, can we please have a roll call vote?
Courtney?
Yes.
Commissioner Fargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Banta? Yes. Commissioner Beaumont?
Yes.
Chair Rudine?
Yes.
Passes.
Good, thank you for the presentation. All right, moving right along to Director's Report.
Moving right along. Oh, thank you, guys. Okay, Pimon, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, thank you, Planning Commission. Since the last time the commission met, there have been a couple things that have happened at council that I would like to recap for you. On May 28th, the council authorized the submittal of a grant to California Office of Emergency Services. It's a FEMA grant. If the city is awarded this grant, it would allow us to put about $750,000 worth of FEMA funds into retrofitting buildings in downtown Vacaville. So we have made it into the final round for consideration, and we're currently putting together a last bit of technical information, and hopefully that grant will be fully out there. So we'll see. And then the council also considered a general plan amendment initiation for Roberts Ranch Parcel M. This is a proposal to convert what was going to be a public school to Kairos public school and also to develop housing. And the council did not authorize that general plan amendment, and they did not deny it, but they continued it to a future date for further discussion. And then on June 11th, as required under the law, when the council adopts a moratorium, they have to come report back kind of shortly thereafter. So the council received a report on consent about the staff's efforts to work on a battery storage moratorium ordinance, and the larger moratorium goes back to council on June 25th. It for that. Tentative schedule of future planning commission items. We plan to bring you the Jepson Center project in July, and we plan to bring you the Vine Tree Estates project in August. We'd like to have more things to bring you, but we're a little bit in between right now, so we are going to try to have one meeting a month. Maybe light agendas, maybe not, depending on what comes in. And then we'll go to the next slide. Building Division monthly report. Activity remains steady, and it's increasing in kind of in all the categories as far as permits issued and ADU permits and fees. Go to the next slide. This is our building permits to date. The activity's climbing as we head into the summer, which is kind of the normal. It's good. We're normally busy for this time of year. And go to the next slide. Inspection activity in April and May was kind of wild. We leapt from about 700 in February all the way up to 1,200 for 2 months in a row. So it is very busy right now on the inspection front. Let's go to the next slide. And this is the slide that shows solar permits in relation to building permits, and they continue to trend more or less on the same trend lines. And go to the next slide. Paymon's going to do this part and advanced planning, and then I will close us with a couple of announcements.
All right, great, thank you. So in terms
here's a question.
of the
Solar permits, are they still required for new housing?
They are, and they go through a very much expedited review process under our new online solar permit application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So in District 1, we had one new application, which was for the Quinn Road Commercial General Plan Amendment. We approved one project, which was for a reduced setback for a pool. District 2, we received an application for the relocation of the Clay Oven Restaurant to occupy where the former Black Oak Restaurant was or is right now. So we're going through that process. We provided some comments already, so we're working with the applicant on that. Vacaville Country Club minor use permit. This is a proposal to have an indoor golf facility and lounge on Commerce Place. So we're working with the applicant on that as well. District 3, we had one new application for the mobile home park, Creekside Mobile Home Park, adding 4 more units. A mobile food truck application is also being reviewed right now for District 3. District 4, we only had some building permits, general non-residential and some minor residential permits. For District 5, Lower Lagoon Valley neighborhood plans for neighborhoods K2 and C came in, and then we had an approved project for time extension for Bella Vista Storage and modification for neighborhood K2 and L in Lower Lagoon Valley. District 3, no new applications, no approved applications, just building permits. So in terms of advanced planning, this will probably look similar to you. There isn't a whole lot of activity. We've got some projects that we've been working on, and there's sort of more long-term projects that will take some time. So you may see the same information with some slightly different information. But for East Leisure Town, the request for proposal released and evaluated. We're interviewing consultants. Actually, there were some consultant interviews today. The housing element, that's sort of an ongoing task for advanced planning. We are working on identifying some programs that we can implement in 2024, but also try to be ahead of some of the 2025 programs too. Allison Priority Development Area, we selected ESA, and we're working with them to sort of kick that off and have that project start as well. And then obviously we're continuing to work with our inclusionary housing consultant on that ordinance and what the options are and try to reach out. Some of our advanced planning housing element outreach efforts will probably include our consultant for inclusionary housing to sort of get that feedback from the development community. So we're working on that. And right now we've identified 2 dates for the rest of the year, July 11th and sometime in the fall, either October 10th or September 26th. And we have a list of folks in the development community that we've reached out to in the past. And so we'll do that again. So that's all I have for advanced planning.
Yeah, I've just got a question. When I was on the planning commission before, We had a housing element committee, and I don't know whether there are any committees going on right now with the Planning Commission or not.
Still have, do we?
There was a subcommittee, but then when the housing element was adopted, that committee did not continue. There's been some interest in housing element implementation, but so far, I think as a staff, we've had our hands full just getting the things together to commission and council. The big package is going to council next week. I have the last slide, a couple of more announcements. We are very excited to announce a process development review process improvements initiative. What a big mouthful that is. But essentially, starting this summer, we have a consultant that's coming on board to help the city identify ways we can serve our customers better, ways we can streamline the development review process. This is not to discount public notification involvement. That's still super important, but there's a lot of things about our process that could get better. So this will involve stakeholder interviews with our consultant, that basically people can say things to our consultant and not be attributed to them. And all this is going to roll out in the next few months. I just want the commission to be aware of it. We are interested in talking to people that have had experiences with building permitting, planning permitting, engineering permitting, and I'm happy to have people sent my way if they're interested in participating. And then staffing updates, this is not necessarily the happiest thing, but it's good for some, I guess. Our assistant director has left Vacaville. She is now the director of another Solano County city, Vallejo. So we're from one V to the other. It was 4 months of her being here. So I'm currently on the hunt for a third assistant director, we'll see. And then we're still trying to fill the vacant senior planner position in advanced planning, and that's now open and continuous. If you know anyone, send them our way. And then we did have a really good response to our recruitment for the vacant assistant associate position in advanced planning. We'll hopefully be doing those interviews in the next few weeks, because actually that was a great response. So we are understaffed in planning, and then on the building side, we had a notable retirement of one of our staff who was with us for 19 years. So now I have one full-time building inspector. I do have a retired annuitant helping out, and we have brought on contract staff to fill in while we have a new building inspector, hopefully starting in July. But it's very thin in my department, but I have to say the staff are working very hard to try to keep everything going. So that's my report, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, thank you. Commissioner comments. Now is the time for commissioner comments. This portion of the agenda is for commissioners to inform each other of items of potential interest to other commissioners, such as interagency meetings, or offer announcements as appropriate. I will start with Commissioner Forty.
No comment?
I'll just go down the line.
No comment.
No comment?
Sure, thank you.
I mean, I'll put in a plug for our Vacaville businesses. Creek Walk obviously started Friday, which is great, and found out that there are concerts in Nut Tree I didn't know about, and so there was a plug out there about on Saturdays, I believe Saturday afternoon. So I think it's a group of jazz orchestra. I mean, it's kind of a round table, so it's pretty cool. Also, knee deep in baseball. Tis the season. It's great. Vacaville National and American are doing a great job of representing the city. In Tournament of Champions, my son, and I'm going to be proud dad moment, was represented minors, Vacaville National, Tournament of Champions in Rio Vista. Didn't come through, but they perform well. So nonetheless, representing Vacaville. So it's always good baseball season. Yeah, thanks.
Commissioner Banta?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation tonight. I'll just follow up on the baseball season. Pony also is having International World Series in July, and so that's a really exciting event for the city. Also, Vacaville PAL just started their Junior Giants tonight. I was there earlier this evening, and they have 130 kids playing in the program, and it's up from 50 from last year. So that's a huge increase and a really great program to offer to all children in our city for free. So that's really, really exciting. And then also just this Sunday is Vacaville's Pride in the Park. And so that's put on by Vacaville People's Forum and Solano Pride Center. And so I just, everyone is welcome to come, and that's a great event for everybody to feel seen in the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banta. Commissioner Beaumont?
I am good, thank
Okay. I'm good as well. So, hey, we can wrap this up. All right, we've reached the end of our meeting. As a reminder, our next meeting will be on Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. Thank you. Good night, Vacaville.